hatred for the demons gave the people of Argent and North as it does now on Earth. We must move. Quickly. There are those who would seek to stop this. I offer you a gift. Take it. It will give you strength. Help you on your journey. And now, they will fear you.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and it's time for Ethan Klein's latest gaffe. I do want to start off with, to be, consistent with my beliefs. He did win what appeared to be a frivolous lawsuit that was filed against him. He won against it from the owner or CEO of a Triller. I think that he was 100% in the right in that, and I'm glad he won. I'm also glad that he won 100% of his attorney fees back. See, you can, as Ethan thinks it's impossible, you can separate things, you can compartmentalize things, but he also had probably one of the biggest weird self-owned takes on Twitter. I think the problem is that Ethan has spent too much time on Twitter, and he's getting positive feedback for just really, in my opinion, brain dead takes. And so then he thinks he's like intellectual and he thinks that it's a good point, but it's really not. In fact, he's basically gone full mask off, pro censorship, pro deplatforming, and has completed the metamorphosis from what was once a hero to many YouTubers to now just another soulless empty husks of leftist corporate media. And it's sad. It's just really sad to see. And he thinks that making defamatory statements on his podcast is somehow totally okay. But then he's mad when people, then he's also pro deplatforming. It's so wild and crazy. I'm going to get into all that after a really quick word from this video's sponsor. Huge shout out to this video's sponsor, Established Titles. Established Titles is a project based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords, and ladies in English. They allow people to buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land so they can call themselves a lord or a lady officially. In return, they commit to plant a tree with every order and protect the beautiful, pristine woodlands of Scotland. Established Titles makes an absolutely amazing gift, and a person could officially get their name changed on documents. Their title pack gives you at least 1 square foot of creators and influencers have been discussing the situation as well as voicing their thoughts and opinions on Tate. Some of the controversial things that he said in the past, one of the most outspoken voices in the mix has been YouTuber and content creator Ethan Klein, who is now clearly pro deplatforming people who he doesn't like. This is something, a lot of people suspected about him for a very long time, but now he doesn't even care anymore. He doesn't even pretend that he's not pro cancel culture. He doesn't even pretend that he's not pro deplatforming. People whose opinions that he doesn't like, he would happily deplatform. I'm sure he would celebrate a guy like Joe Rogan getting deplatformed, a guy like myself getting deplatformed, because he himself thinks he's untouchable. He then went on to tweet that he got a cease and desist letter from Andrew Tate. He demands to stop talking about him. Now, this is what the thing is. Like, in Ethan's galaxy brain take here, he writes, "Dear free speech champions that defended Andrew Tate, tell me what you think about this. I just got a cease and desist letter from Andrew Tate. He demands I stop talking about him. Thoughts?" Now, in just 2 sentences, you have probably one of the most manipulative, misrepresentative statements humanly imaginable. First of all, he did not get a cease and desist letter that said he had to stop talking about him. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I also want to point out that if you're a free speech champion, which as cringy as it sounds, I would consider myself pro free speech, you are not defending Andrew Tate. This is like the leftist small mindset. When you are defending, if you are speaking out against the deplatforming of Andrew Tate, you are not defending him or his ideas. You are defending the idea that he should have a right to say what is on his mind and a right to share his opinions. I don't agree with things that Andrew Tate says or even does, but I do think he should have the right to say those things. So this is like the twisted leftist pro-censorship mindset. Like, oh, you didn't like that they deplatformed him, then you must agree with the things he says. Said another way, people who I don't agree with or people who say things I don't like should be deplatformed, which is exactly how we know Ethan Klein feels these days. Now, he gets a bunch of likes and retweets on Twitter from other pro-censorship people, so he thinks it's some kind of nuanced take. But you see a lot of people in the responses saying defamation is a completely different ballgame, especially when his voice is completely stripped to the point of not being able to defend himself. Time to see if there was any merit in what you were saying about him. Fans of Tate are defending the move, calling out Klein and others who have been talking about the influencer as breaching defamation laws and rules, given that he is unable to defend himself anymore. Look, I don't think just because somebody's been deplatformed, you aren't allowed to talk about them. That's ridiculous. However, there are some statements that Ethan Klein has made that would appear to be defamatory, which is what you would issue a cease and desist about. You can't say, you can never mention my name. I don't think that's how it works. Some are defending Klein and highlighting that almost every influencer has been speaking out about Andrew Tate, and others even questioning if Klein did in fact even receive the letter, that he might have simply made it up as a way to fuel hatred towards Tate. I don't believe Ethan Klein made it up. I genuinely don't. I don't think he would make up that. He's a lot of things, but I don't think he's an outward liar. However, Klein was quick to put these things to bed. He followed up earlier tweet. Klein posted a quick Instagram video showing the email he received about the cease and desist in question. In the Instagram, he explains that he received an email today from Andrew's attorney. The email is then shown in the background of the video, with Klein confirming that is asking him to cease and desist talking about him. He then calls out Tate for his hypocrisy. What about my free speech, Andrew? Now, I did not, I don't think, and again, this is a straw man. This is the only real argument Ethan can win. I don't believe Andrew Tate has branded himself as a free speech warrior. Maybe it's something he's been talking about now that he's been deplatformed, but like, you can see Sean Fitzgerald here, actual justice warrior, saying, your wife claimed on your podcast that trafficking allegations were, quote, not alleged or a part of an ongoing investigation, but proven, and did it repeatedly. This is not the case. Even then, show us the letter. If Tate is using slap suit tactics, then I wouldn't be on board. You know, like, here you see the letter. So I'm sure you've already seen this, but this is where he said, I won't believe that he got a cease and desist letter until he shows it. You could see, please direct this to your, letter. This says cease and desist all defamation, slander, and or lies. This isn't a letter that says you can't talk about him, Ethan Klein, and I know your super huge mega brain viewers probably think that's what this means, without, like, they literally can't read. But what they're saying is you are not allowed to defame people knowingly, and what Ela Klein allegedly does is just that. And you can't go and say, like, oh, he's, and by the way, he has also said, where's the tweet? I have it. I don't have it. His only reply was, bro, I was saying, Ethan, are you so shallow in your beliefs that you would abandon them just because someone else does? Free speech is important, and as a content creator who's faced several lawsuits involving creative freedoms and your own free speech, it's baffling you would have such an L take. 1,800 likes, right? What do you think? What kind of mega brained, well thought out reply do you think Ethan Klein would have? Bro, were you drunk when you wrote this? Tate is the one threatening to sue me, not the other way around. I never said you were threatening to sue him. I said that you think that free speech only should apply to people you agree with, Ethan Klein, or that you think free speech, that somebody shouldn't be entitled to free speech universally, even if they think, see, like, somebody like Ethan Klein doesn't think everyone's entitled to free speech, but I think Ethan Klein should be. See how that works? Like, it doesn't have to work like that. And the thing is, he's had several tweets where he states certain things as fact about Andrew, and calling him like the R word and all this other kind of stuff that is just, these are allegations, but you see, so brave to have this trafficking, like, person who raises their hands, R word. Like, he's stating this as fact. Now, we've seen the videos of him raising his hands to someone. That's not okay. But the trafficking thing, as far as I know, he hasn't been convicted of it. That would be news to me. And obviously the R word, again, he's stating things that are allegations as fact. And I would argue that there's probably some legal ramifications there. You see here, good news is Andrew Tate was banned. The bad news is he's going to go back to human trafficking women. And like, again, allegations. You know, like all the things that Ethan has said here, he's stating as literal fact, which, you know, I don't think is protected by free speech as far as it goes. I mean, you know, he's not even saying in my opinion, he's stating it as fact. And oh, by the way, you know, all these clowns that are like, and again, I don't know how many times I have to say this. I don't consume Andrew Tate's content. It's not for me, obviously, but this is a guy that now went on to Rumble and has 500,000 subscribers there and had a live stream with over 100,000 concurrent viewers the other day. That's more people. That's probably the biggest live stream that's ever happened on Rumble. Maybe Crowder was bigger. And it's also 5 to 7 times bigger than Andrew's ever had. So all this cancellation attempt, all this chest beating and thumping and stuff, saying that you're doing good, you only made the guy more popular, which all of us knew was going to happen anyway. But keep doing the same thing over and over again, especially with ideas you don't like, Ethan, because that'll definitely make them go away. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Welcome back. So today, I think I've got some pretty important stuff that you are very likely going to feel in your actual day-to-day of, well, consuming content on the internet. So let's get into things. Today, I'm going to be talking about Twitch, because while the likes of Mixer have obviously fell by the wayside, the big old war between YouTube and Twitch is raging. It's raging strong, but there's a difference. While Amazon and Google are absolutely humongous companies, YouTube is a mature, well-monetized product that's been doing its thing for a long time. Whereas Twitch, seemingly, are not making enough money, and it seems like that is beginning to make Twitch desperate. And it's causing them to make some fairly interesting moves. We're actually at a situation where, per Senpai Gaming, we actually have bidding wars happening between Twitch and YouTube, where YouTube are literally just more willing to pay money to acquire talent. But it goes beyond that. Twitch are changing up their platform, they are changing up their rules, so Twitch clearly needs to earn more money, and that is not going to be good for either of us. Unlike this platform. Brilliant, today's sponsor. They're the best way to improve your prospects and to develop yourself, especially in lucrative and fascinating fields. It's all via their fantastic site and app, and the first 200 to click my link will get 20% off. Now, compared to how I learned, say, computer science in university, their approach is so much more approachable. It's fun, it's interactive, and after I've been playing around with AI art tools recently, I realized the Brilliant's Introduction to Neural Networks course is the ideal way to learn how it actually works. And everything is done through fun, interactive quizzes focused around interesting problems, stuff you can relate to. It is so refreshing, and I don't know about you, but I've got so many gaps in my knowledge. I kind of feel like I've fallen off the wagon a bit, to be honest. I'm too busy to develop myself, and that's something that I regret. But Brilliant has got me learning things again. With their approach, you don't just sponge in facts. No, you actually have topics. Click. So, if you're thinking about your career, well, I think they're the best way to get started. High-paying fields like artificial intelligence and computer science, rather than a boring old textbook. So, I love what they do, and whether you want to learn for yourself, or perhaps spark the journey of a younger mind, you can visit brilliant.org/Bellular News today. And the first 200 to click my link will get 20% off their annual subscription. So, there you go, Brilliant. Honestly, awesome company on an awesome mission. Check them out down below. Let's get back to the news. So the most new thing that's happened that actually does tie into very concerning leaks from a short while ago is that Twitch have actually dropped the exclusivity clause of their partner contract. That's quite interesting. Technically, that's a contract that I have violated because I'm actually a Twitch partner from many years ago, but we do our live show here on YouTube. So, funny enough, that's good for me. But what you're not allowed to do is simultaneously stream on Twitch and another web-based streaming platform like Facebook or, of course, YouTube, but there is an exception for TikTok and Instagram live streaming if people want to do that. So this is overall a fairly interesting situation, and it's got a few second-order effects. On the face of it, that's good. It's less restrictive. And that very much means that Twitch people who likely already have an established presence on YouTube because of highlight channels or clip channels, they can start to dip their toes in YouTube if they want. And they can do so without massively alienating or without literally destroying the revenue streams that they've already created over on Twitch. I also have got to wonder if by doing this, Twitch are going to try to perhaps stem that tide of the YouTube exclusivity stuff, right? Like maybe if creators think they can just dip over onto the YouTube side, maybe that could like dampen down that talent acquisition space for a bit. It's also the case that if people are to wander over to YouTube but still keep their Twitch, well, that means that all those subs are still going to be bringing Twitch in money. But still, overall, you obviously can't stream both at the same time, so while a streamer could move over and start streaming on YouTube some days, Twitch and other days, it really doesn't make that much sense. So, it's a bit of a bizarre thing. What it will do, I think, is make more people feel like they can move off Twitch. And I think they've opened themselves up to something that's going to be dangerous for them in the long run here. And that is that it seems things are only going to get worse on Twitch insofar as their business goes, right? And if things are only going to get worse, and the barrier to switching platform has reduced, there's a high chance that's going to erode Twitch's streamer base, or make new people think that they can just start streaming on YouTube, and that is going to be a better place to do it. And one of the reasons why this is all quite scary for some people is the leaks. So these leaks came out, they're very interesting, and one part of what was leaked was no more exclusivity. The other parts are a new tier system, a new revenue split, and incentives for more ads. Now, the incentives we've seen, the new revenue split is the major thing we've got to talk about, and obviously the exclusivity we've seen as well. Now, that rev change is really, really rough. There are actually plenty of Twitch creators that are on a 50-50 contract, but changing that from 70-30 to 50-50, I think is clearly a situation where Twitch are willing to lose users, but think that they will actually, at the end, come out on top financially. I think that would be a very short-term kind of decision that overall would just obliterate them in the marketplace, because YouTube, for all member-related things, is 70-30, right?
If the crucible blade is
50-50,
removed,
70-30.
the Titan
Which one
will
would you
rise
choose?
again.
I think anyone in their right mind would choose 70-30. So I think that this is another thing that's going to be pretty damn bad. And as Twitch is caught in a cycle where they have to more deeply monetize a smaller amount of people, well, that's only going to get worse, and I feel like there's a chance it could spiral. Now, YouTube by no means is at its inflection point as a game streaming platform. But what about 2 or 3 years' time? I mean, YouTube certainly has significantly less stream-related drama than Twitch does. And to dive a little bit more deeply into this, we've got to talk about how much streamers earn. So this is posted by Zach Busey, who works just a hell of a lot of what he does is within the streamer space. So the first half of 2022 had 15 million channels go live at least once. 11.1% were affiliates, only 0.03% were partners. Now, if you include only affiliates and partners, if you had an average of 6+ viewers, you're in the top 21% of streamers. An average of 26+ viewers makes you top 5%, and if you have 250+ viewers, you are in the top 1%. Right? The top 1% is 250+ viewers. Now, think about all of this, and then think about the change to a 50-50 split. I mean, obviously we can look at where they're getting their money from. Any 70-30 contracts are not going to be good for Twitch, so they will obviously want to change that, and per those leaks, we at least know this is something that has been discussed internally at the company. And if you think about Twitch, or just a lot of what we do in general, you think about notable examples, well, you've got to remember the survivorship bias. It's massively impactful here. So Twitch was hacked in 2021, you may remember this, and a whole bunch of creator payout data got leaked. It was quite something. And many people were, of course, earning many millions, but this is what was pointed out. I believe this is from Washington Post analysis at the time, where they, collated some of what people in the know said. 25% of the top 10,000 highest paid Twitch streamers don't make minimum wage. And based on the handful of months in 2021, 25% may underestimate the actual figure. If you take what the 8,000th streamer on the list made since 2019, it's $29,396. Divide that by 2, you get basically $14,700, which is below the annual minimum wage of $15,000, and that itself may even be a charitable estimate. So you can see, you know, you're 8,000th in the world. You would think that really would mean you've climbed to the top of the hill. No. So obviously, Twitch are making a hell of a lot of money from a relatively small number of streamers playing ads and getting subs. So any changes in the deal will be pretty important there. Now, advertising is, of course, massive for these platforms. Indeed, it is the main way that YouTube monetizes itself. Often YouTube have tried to do other things, and they haven't really worked out that well. But the thing for YouTube is, well, they're Google. Google is an advertisement company, ultimately, when you think about where its revenue goes. And between AdSense, AdWords, they have got, well, at this stage, actually, pretty much decades of experience in the ads market. It is what they are extremely good at. Ads are massive for Twitch. And if you're a viewer of Twitch streams like me, you probably get frustrated at ads all the time. Well, now it's time to talk about the new ad system that Twitch have implemented. So they announced they're moving to a 55% split for ads, which is actually on par with YouTube in terms of what they pay us for adverts. But the thing is, they've implemented this in a peculiar way, as basically a cash reward for almost doing a bounty. They're overtly withholding creator money, basically saying, jump through our hoops, bitch. That's essentially what they're doing, right? So, just so you're aware, on YouTube, if I publish a video or do a live stream, YouTube will give the, my cut of the amount of money that has been generated from my video. I get 55%, they get 45%. No matter what, that's how it works. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no asterisks. On Twitch, though, it's very different. And on Twitch, I think I may be realizing one of the ways that they are trying to offer exclusivity to maybe make people feel a bit safer, but trying to implement systems that tie people down. So this is the ad incentive program, right? You will basically get an incentive if you meet some thresholds. So run 2 minutes of ads per hour, stream 40 hours this month, and this is Twitch's example, you'll get $100. 3 minutes of ads, $300. 4 minutes of ads, 40 hours streamed in the month, $500. I mean, hey, you could look at that and say, okay, that's pretty sweet, if you don't think too hard about it and you don't think about what they're actually doing. Now, here is an example I found from just somebody who was sharing their own data, as you can see there. 1 minute of ads per hour, stream 113 hours this month, $761. That doubles for 2 minutes, and it's $2,038 incentive for running 3 minutes of ads per hour for 113 hours this month. Now, 113 hours is quite a lot. And the thing is, if you are going to try to actually do a really interesting, engaging stream, you're going to have time out doing research, time out even working on your stream, like literally working on your stream to make it better for your viewers. Maybe some sponsor stuff, some business. You got to handle your tax. You've got to do all the other things. Believe me, I thought it would basically be easy, be paid to play video games before I got stuck into this whole shindig. Let me tell you, it ain't that easy. But what's really bad here, let's just say this individual did run 3 minutes of ads per hour for 113 hours. Well, if they did that for less than less hours, they would not earn the incentive. The thing is, that incentive is the 55-45 split. That incentive is money that they have earned. And Twitch is saying, unless you jump through this hoop, we're not going to give you this cut of the revenue that you have generated.
Your vault should contain
That would be
what
like
you need.
YouTube saying, hey, we want you to generate maybe 200,000 watch hours this month. And if you do, we will give you this amount of money. Or ultimately, that would be YouTube withholding revenue that we're earning. So it's bizarre. There are examples of high-profile streamers of this really paying. There are also examples of these being frankly ludicrous. But for me, the overall point is that this just feels like they are really... they're just, you know what, we get a damp towel, you try to remove the orange, get really tight. That is what it feels like they do. But of course, that's not all. We've also, I think, got to talk a little bit about some of the desperation that's out there. At least this is a funny story, right? So we started offering a thing called a boost, where you could basically give the person you're watching 10,000 impressions that would basically just mean roll us some money and we will give this person a little sponsored spot or a featured spot on a more visible area of Twitch, and that maybe will generate some viewership for them. So they were basically saying, hey, we have a discoverability problem and we are going to try to sell you the solution, rather than working discoverability in order to make our platform overall more healthy and successful. Look at YouTube. One thing that YouTube does extremely well is discoverability. I've been doing this for almost a decade. I know how the algorithm works. Multiple niches, multiple channels. Discoverability is basically the foundation of so many people's careers, and it just does not exist in that same way over on Twitch. Which partially is fair enough because I think there are reasons why it's inherently a bit harder within the streamer space. Now, this boost thing ended up falling by the wayside because people quickly realized, hang on a second, what if a channel streams some porn and then we all boost that channel, then Twitch will have porn on their front page. Yeah, that happened. It was pretty damn hilarious when Twitch stopped the program. But then they did launch another experiment called Boost Trains. Basically it's like a new sub-train thing that will give enhanced visibility. I think it's significantly better, but again, it is Twitch trying to monetize some of the discoverability issue. And I'll cover the number later, but about 7% of discoverability is from sources external to Twitch. Suffice to say, on YouTube, it is not like that whatsoever. The next thing, then, is staff leaving the company, right? So, key departures that have happened recently enough include their CEO, their COO, their CCO, their head of creator development, who you may recognize, DJ Weed. I remember watching his StarCraft podcasts, well, literally a decade ago. And this is what he said afterward. We went down the Silicon Valley route, hiring from Facebook, from Twitter. Many new employees had little understanding of gaming or live streaming and were unwilling to learn what this community was, why it was special. The customer was the content creator. If you're not passionate about the product, you're not really looking at it from the customer's lens. And so you don't have the same level of empathy. That's what somebody else said. And that, I think, overall encapsulates a lot of what has really frustrated Twitch creators, where they feel like they're not being taken seriously, they feel more of a pinch from Twitch, and I think it's becoming obvious to a lot of people. I mean, I think Twitch, was it 2.3 billion in revenue they had in one of the more recent years, where I think YouTube, it was like well over 100 billion, right? So YouTube is just earning so much more money, and I think it's a situation where YouTube is more important to Google than Twitch is to Amazon. I mean, look at Amazon's other efforts within the gaming sphere. Like, yeah, New World exploded, and there is the Lost Ark that kind of exploded for a bit. Does have a lot of drama now. Before that, you just had an extensive graveyard of games and years of development time just flushed down the toilet. But hey, I will at least say, Twitch Prime? Now that is pretty damn good. And I think this is where we've got to talk a little bit about the competition. A little bit, I suppose, about my own personal decision making. Because ultimately, it's not just me sitting down and thinking, do I want to stream in this platform or that program, or that platform? Right? Like, we have employees, I have to sit down, I have to think, what's the best overall thing so that I'm being responsible in leading this team of people? So, the big streaming war. The first one, I think it's obvious that Twitch is not making enough money for its parent company, and that directionally seems to mean that things can only go one way for creators and viewers, and that way is worse. I would expect more advertisements. As an example, look at the ads that, like, literally this incentive program. For a lot of people, like 3 minutes of ads an hour feels pretty big. The thing is, though, this is based on past behavior, right? So here's another one, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I have seen creators show their version of this where it's even more minutes of ads per hour. I believe I've seen, it was either 6 or 8. I mean, 8 minutes? Wow. And it's not actually, it's even worse than you think it is. Because This isn't creator ran ads where the creator hits a button, right? Maybe they say, okay, I'm going to go get a cup of tea. I'll hit the ad button. Thanks for your support. I'll be back in a minute. No, this is only for auto-played ads. And the other thing, of course, Twitch loves to hit you with the big unskippable. Now look, I've used YouTube on a TV, not on my premium account. And yeah, the ads can be pretty frustrating. But more often than not, you can skip them in 5 seconds, and then the ad's done with and you're back to the content. On Twitch, it doesn't really work like that. Twitch gives you far more of those lovely 30-second unskippables. I mean, how many times have you went to Twitch and basically seen the same advert for Audible, another Amazon product, again and again and again and again, to the point where you just want to Alt F4 your browser and do something else. So I think all of us, we're just going to feel the pinch more and more and more, and overall it is a worse advertisement experience. There's also things that are important to the baseline health of the platform. Now, by no means is a saint when it comes to copyright stuff. I think you should check out Business Casual's insane situation where, well, it's an insane situation. What I will say broadly, though, is that because YouTube almost got sued into oblivion a long time ago, they've invested a lot of money in the likes of Content ID. And look, as a creator, it can be quite frustrating if, you put one swear word in the first 30 seconds of a video and then it gets demonetized. Or, I don't know, like in this channel, if we include Grand Theft Auto trailer footage, that often will get copyright claimed. But our content gets claimed, we're told so before we've pushed the content live, giving us an opportunity to amend the problem, put the video back up. While it is friction, while it is frustrating, it, generally speaking, is a pretty damn reliable system, does its job, and broadly, while there are potential abuses that we're all aware of, it does keep people safe enough. And mostly the rules are fair, even though there are notable examples of severe bullshit. Over on Twitch, though, I mean, do you remember the DMCA music debacle? I mean, wow, what would have happened if the likes of, say, Riot Games didn't come in and just offer everybody their, stream-safe music? But still, that's just another example of Twitch knowing
the demonic energy flows now to the south,
loads of their
and the
creators
society you
and
once
not
knew
doing
has been replaced
anything
by a corrupted
proper
world
to deal
under
with the
Maker
issue.
rule.
Okay, it's 2022, this is a bit less of a drama now, but it was quite an important thing 2021 and earlier on this year. There's also discoverability, which I've talked about before. Discoverability in YouTube basically just means whenever you post some content, as long as you get enough initial followers for the algorithm to understand what sort of viewer would enjoy that content, generally does actually do a pretty damn good job of driving views to that content. A lot of people will say, my content doesn't go out to my subs. Often that's actually not really the case. There are a few exceptions, of course. Very often it's actually the fact that most of your subscribers as a YouTuber don't use the subscription feed. The vast majority of YouTube traffic is driven via what's next, via recommended, via the homepage, where, just like it's a fruit machine in the casino, you refresh the homepage, you go cha-chink, and you hope that some interesting pictures appear in front of you so you can click one of them to watch. That is unfortunately how it works. But it does actually work pretty damn good, and it can get people a lot of discoverability in such a way that really just does not happen on Twitch, such that you're looking at around 30% of creators being discovered on Twitch, while the other 70% is coming from the likes of Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, etc. There's then also the issue of synergy, and I think this is somewhere where Twitch have done really well by being a niche, and they've dominated the live streaming gaming sector. But now that we've got the likes of Tim the Tatman, we've got Dr. Disrespect, and a lot of other major names, Ludwig, of course, one thing that many are beginning to see is the power of synergy. Here's a really good example. Via YouTube memberships, you can essentially run what most people would consider to be a Patreon. You can run that on YouTube. Now, you do have to take the 70-30 split, which to some people will sting, but that will allow you to do early access content, audience polls, just lots of different audience rewards. So there's a strong synergy between live streamed content, between shorts, and between your regular VOD YouTube content. Now, there are some issues. One of the people who's been an absolute champion for us in this scene is Ludwig, who has even had direct communications with Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube. And it's not like he went on her podcast or he went to her office. She actually went to his podcast. And apparently via that, we've actually learned that YouTube is working on better ways to distinguish content on their platform. So you basically don't have live streams, shorts, and regular YouTube content kind of crowding each other in the same space. Now, of course, YouTube does have its downsides, right? You can get a thing that I sort of call notification cannibalization, where, let's just say, you want to release a video the same day that you live stream. Well, if you release that video while you're streaming, it'll get no initial momentum because people are watching your live stream. And sometimes it can just give people too many notifications and it all gets a bit messy. And then, of course, there is that very crowded experience of people's content where sometimes to know that a YouTuber you like is streaming, you almost have to just go to YouTube and if they are streaming, hope that their thing gets presented to you. That's something YouTube will absolutely have to fix. Even though in other ways the discoverability is good. As an example, if I was live streaming and you were to watch one of our Warcraft videos, my icon would be red, indicating I'm currently live, and that would allow you to hop immediately to my live stream. So the likes of that are actually quite powerful. Another problem with YouTube, in a way, and it's not necessarily their fault, but it's culture. Twitch culture, I think, is the greatest asset that Twitch have. Twitch make a lot of money from ads, but also from subs, bits, all that stuff. So the whole gifted subs as a cultural thing, it exists far more profoundly in Twitch than it does over on YouTube, where, yes, YouTube does not convert as highly into revenue as Twitch does, almost entirely down to the cultural differences in the platform. Also, some specific things. As an example, YouTube's implementation of gifted memberships is quite simply not as good as Twitch's implementation of gifted subs. So YouTube does have a lot of things to fix. But overall, I look at the innovations you could say that YouTube are doing, and a lot of that is them playing catch up to Twitch. A lot of that is them adding new features. As an example, you can show your merchandise under a YouTube video. There's quite a few things like that. Generally, it's more features and more creators to support ultimately what a lot of creators are, which is small businesses. Obviously, most of that stuff is good for YouTube as well, right? They'll make their cut. But I think it's becoming obvious that YouTube is a more mature and figured out product that basically has its revenue model sorted. Now, there are some things like, say, YouTube Shorts. They do not earn as much money as YouTube videos because they operate on a creator fund basis where, let's just say, YouTube says they have $300 million and they will divide that up between shorts based on watch time across the whole platform. And it turns out that that gets sliced up to the point where the CPMs are pretty awful. So that's one example of those being rough. But even TikTok actually has seen the amount of money that it makes per view absolutely plummet in the last little while, because quite simply, that pie of money is being sliced up thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner because more people are driving more views and watch time as that platform grows. So overall then, I try to think about what directionally makes the most sense. And to me, it did end up being YouTube. Now, one reason there is because most of my audience is on YouTube because I was a YouTuber first. But the thing is, if you say want to make it on Twitch, man, I'd recommend having a YouTube presence first, or anything like that. Because going from 0 to the top 1%, so maybe to 250 plus views, whatever, that is so unlikely if you are just sitting there on Twitch doing the grind. Perhaps even doing the 60 hours a month for a tiny ad incentive grind. It just ain't worth it. You gotta think about other ways to grow yourself, get yourself known faster. Basically, it's the snowball rolling down the hill metaphor. You need to build enough of a snowball to then roll down, if you know what I mean. I overall then, if I was to sort of end this with a bit of a thesis on things, Twitch has an obvious problem, YouTube has obvious problems. YouTube absolutely must give a premium membership, right? So if somebody has YouTube Premium, they should get a free membership each month, just like with Twitch Prime. They should definitely do that. If YouTube Premium could also give people maybe perks and games, like Amazon's Prime Gaming does, I think that would also be a good way for them to compete on that basis. All right? As for Twitch, 50-50, I think is ridiculous, given that that value is coming from the creators. I think 50-50 is kind of ridiculous. Now, 55-45, that's industry standard when it comes to adverts, so that is fine. But ultimately, if somebody streams for X amount of time, shows X amount of ads, it should generate Y or Z, whatever amount of money, give them that money. Don't say, hey, you have to complete this goal. This is like some bizarre gamified gig economy. I wonder if they are trying to do this as a habit-forming mechanism to basically gamify the earning money bit as a way to make the whole enterprise seem a bit less grim. I wonder. And that's not even touching on their historic just uselessness at content moderation, to the degree where so many people just don't even take their platform seriously, right? Like some people go on Twitch and it's like, okay, cool, what is this? Why is this basically just software? What's going on there? Or many other things like gambling. Just go onto Twitch and like, cool, there's all the gambling content. And I could level that criticism at YouTube too, by the way. But it just feels like Twitch have been listless. I mean, in a way, leaderless. All these top-level people going. And when these top-level people are going, when over 300 employees left in 2021 because they're experiencing pretty damn high churn in their, in their workforce, while all of these bad-seeming things are happening, they are just tightening the screw on monetization. Overall, I think that's probably rough for the long-term health of that platform. I would not be surprised if right now a lot of the Twitch creators that you watch are planning their move to YouTube. Probably not telling you about it. Probably thinking, okay, I need to stake a claim here. I need to get ready to slowly move over in 2 or 3 years in case there are more blunders, in case that 50-50 split goes. They're going to be thinking, okay, 50-50 sub-split, that's not good. Should I just tell my audience to donate to me in Streamlabs instead? Or to donate to my Patreon instead? I don't know. All of these things are risk factors. So that is the situation as I see it. Obviously, on YouTube, I've streamed on Twitch in the past. Recently, I've streamed on YouTube. You could argue that I'm forcing this race in the same way that, say, Ludwig does. But ultimately, think about the communications that Ludwig and Susan Wojcicki have had, and I kind of think, wow, that actually, how is it that the massive behemoth of YouTube is managing to come off more personable than Twitch, who's like DNA to us? I don't know. Let's hope competition drives Twitch to be better, because I do not want to do the Google map, where Google have a near monopoly in streaming and a near monopoly involved. No, Twitch is important in this case. It was sad that Mixer went by the wayside because Mixer meant more competition, and more competition is good. Let me know what you think about this. And again, what is your experience like as a viewer? Do you feel like it's been getting worse? To be honest, I find being a viewer on Twitch pretty frustrating. I suppose I should just get turbo. But let me know what your experience has been. That's the most important thing here. Okay, that's it from me. Do check out Brilliant, today's sponsor. They're an awesome sponsor. They're one of the most, like, thumbs up. I will accept your sponsorship because your mission's pretty awesome and your tools are great. So check out Brilliant with that link down below. Thanks to you for watching. See you next time.
new generation of Kickstarter MMOs is unbelievable.
Ah, human. I see you're enjoying the sights of a Kickstarter MMO, but I've got something even better. Are you interested?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm super impressed with this one, so I'd love to see more.
Of course. Right this way, sir.
Oh, it's a bit chilly. The fog's a bit thick. Hello? Genie? What is that sound? Oh, what is that?
Looks like Cope's back on the menu, boys.
Hey, what up, boys? So, after the spoils of this month's livestream, I'm left with a plethora of clickbait titles to choose from.
Well, you have the ability to trigger negative emotions, drawing in the doubters for the game and converting them with insightful commentary through the medium of scope creep.
But on the other hand, you have the ability to predict how close Alpha 2 is using the same format from your past video, using currently completed assets shown from previous live streams.
That's amateur clickbait. Instead, I chose to go with baseless speculation and deceptive titles because Ashes of Creation's world is already done. But before we get into that, our patrons and I would love for you to grab yourself a Coca-Cola, because today we'll be talking about the lore, the world building, and why this information is basically not widely known yet. Because, you know, it obviously doesn't exist, except it does. However, the discovery of an MMORPG is an important part of keeping an audience hooked, and as Ashes of Creation is a brand new game without a franchise to build its audience from, I think it's going to be difficult for people to understand the appeal of this world whilst it's in development. It's not going to be the same as World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls Online, and of course, Riot's upcoming MMO, as the core audience of loyal players invested in the lore, character, and story are vital for the success of an MMO. I can't wait to read the comments of this video.
Little did Mark know he would regret such a statement.
Now, with all that bollocks out of the way, let's begin, shall we? The lore, an interesting topic to resident sleeper everyone near the start of the video, but bear with me because I'm not going to go over Ashes of Creation's lore in depth for today's video. Instead, I'll just whet your appetite because a lot of their lore already exists. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy your Coca-Cola to an immersive short story written and curated by the mighty Sandal Lord himself. Many centuries before Vera fell to the ashes, this world was split into many nations and tribes. Among the first great nations to rise during Vera's early history was a nation of half-elves, or more commonly known as the Tauren Empire. There was little war happening during this period. For the most part, the world was living and thriving in harmony, with minor conflicts for territory, but nothing that would threaten the peace in the lands. However, this did not satisfy the Tauren leader, Atrax, a mighty mage and king of the Tauren Empire. He grew thirsty for power and became obsessed with unlocking the secrets to eternal life. His obsession led him to dabble in corrupt magic, which took him down a dark pursuit of sinister relics to further his newly discovered connection to otherworldly beings known as the Others. He believed these beings would grant him the eternal life he sought. Using his cunning and deceit with all the power of the first great empire of Vera, he instructed his armies to seek out and obtain primordial relics and unleash a terrible blight upon the lands. His reward for such a feat was not exactly the eternal life he desired, for he and his followers were instead cursed with eternal undeath, resulting in the great wars of the Undying. Atrax was rumored to become a great and powerful lich, his eternal life now purposed to serve the ancients and their masters, ready for our return to Vera. This is the basic premise behind Ashes of Creation's lore. However, there's obviously a lot more interesting nuances to it that is explained in my 23-minute lore video up here in the top corner. Now, I know public perception is that I got plenty of videos to make this month, but the reality is I'm running on fumes over here, guys. However, I would love to remake that old lore video. It is still, by far, to this date, my proudest video on this channel, and I'm sure you guys would love some clarification to some more lore. You know, provided Steven hasn't ghosted me after my choice of underwear. So let me know if you'd be interested in seeing a revamped lore video supercharged by Steven's almighty knowledge. And, Steven, mate, come on, throw me a bone here. It's only my balls on your face. I believe this Atrax fellow will be our main antagonist for Ashes of Creation. Whilst the population was safe from Atrax's ancient armada escaping through their capital city portals, Atrax himself remain. I believe many of the dungeons, the threats, and the core narrative for Ashes of Creation will be involving Atrax and what he's done to the world in our absence. This was prevalent in Alpha 1, and we also see ancient influences teased during the Desert Showcase, and this is probably some sort of ancient threat that we will need to deal with as a raid. Additionally, Atrax's own capital city is obviously still untouched, and I believe his whole nation has probably been converted to undead alongside their leader, represented by these beauties. This is probably the Torrent 2,500 years later, twisted and rotten by the ancients' corrupting power that Atrax now wields. The possibilities are endless for Ashes of Creation, and I am of course talking straight out of my arse, as you will find out in the next segment, but what I've touched on here is merely the surface level of what we can expect. Religion and the gods are going to play a major part in this game's story, and we don't even know anything about them yet. So let's baselessly speculate on some more and discuss the origins of Steven's vision and compare it to what is currently on the market. So Ashes of Creation originates from Steven's Pathfinder campaign that has been running for many years now. The original and new world map both stem from the world building they created, and I find this rather interesting as a concept. Something like this has never been done before, an MMO made from something as personal as a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. It raises some interesting questions about the integrity of the lore and how flexible or solidified it is to work off. Their original lore extracts describe some very solid characters and a team of A-listers who could feature as this game's main narrative, but they were alive 2,000 years ago. Roughly about the same amount of time this game's been in development. Alright guys. So then why don't Intrepid begin building up their lore and characters now? Why don't they try to create the ties and the story before the game is released? And these are very good questions. Questions that I think tie into the exploration and discovery of this world. As we'll discuss in the final segment of today's video, I don't think Intrepid want to spoil their lore and story. As I teased at the start, it does exist. However, spoiling it now leaves nothing for us to discover in-game, and I will explain why in a moment. The reason people resonate with a game like Warcraft 3 is because we played it ourselves in our youth. The nostalgic ties are there, and the fact that retail still has a slight glimmer of Warcraft deep within the depths of the fur and scale details that remain on the surface of WoW's furry agenda, people are still tied to the franchise. Riot's MMO will have this, of course, as they've had many years to flesh out their characters and lore in Runeterra. But do the players of today, who really didn't participate in Dungeons & Dragons tabletop sessions, really care about the lore? You guys will have to let me know, because I will admit, although League's cinematics are great, it is just marketing at the end of the day. New World had great marketing. You remember that game, guys? No?
What about Arcane, dude? Have you heard about Arcane? It's fucking awesome, and a Netflix series totally translates to an MMORPG being good. Right, guys? It's the lore, right?
And yeah, it probably is. Anyway, I like my lore slow and in-depth, and a tabletop Dungeons & Dragons game is a perfect base to bounce and build that immersive world that really matters in the long term. This is also reflected in long-standing franchises with meaningful gameplay like Warcraft 3, the Elder Scrolls franchise, Guild Wars, and of course, as much as I hate to admit it, Final Fantasy. These franchises have meaningful lore and ties to times when we were younger. However, can an MMO really rely on the older generation to survive nowadays? Are the nostalgic ties strong enough to maintain a player base in today's age, or do MMORPGs need a new generation of MMO gamers using a game that appeals to the youth? I am of two minds with this question, because I do believe there are still 12 million players out there my age, desperate for a good MMO to come along so they can immerse themselves in a passionate, personal Dungeons & Dragons-esque world. And that's where Riot and Ashes of Creation are different. Riot's characters are already established. People will recognize Jinx in the game. People obviously recognize characters like Thrall, but who's gonna recognize generic NPC number 567? Nobody, right? Well, actually, Ashes of Creation is approaching this in a way that has never been done before. In fact, that's a lie. Ashes of Creation is approaching this in a way that made MMORPGs so community-driven back in the day, and I want to conclude today's video discussing this particular subject. Just like in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign, it's the characters you meet along the way that make those sessions so memorable and meaningful. This highly anticipated MMO is presenting itself in a way that is quite unlike every other MMO currently out there. You see, Ashes is a quote-unquote sand park MMO, which essentially means it's just a sandbox with some theme park elements. So that means the NPCs in the world, aside from the overarching deities like the Seven Gods or the antagonists like Atrax and the Ancients, don't really have much meaning, and they will be appearing and disappearing as the server progresses. I'm sure Wayne McLaughlin, formerly ESO's lead writer, is going to do a fantastic job with the storytelling and quest design, but I actually think it is the players themselves that step into the role as memorable members of a server's lore. Each server will tell a different story, they boast, and you can indeed view that story through a library, a structure available to build in one of the nodes. I find this rather interesting because community meant something back in the day. It's why we played our MMORPGs, but as MMOs became corporate, focused on profit over passion, players began trickling away, forcing companies to create automated systems and mega servers where community no longer mattered. Can Ashes of Creation bring back that community aspect to an MMORPG here in 2022? The dreaded age of YouTube guides and Twitch streams, can players really step into the role of memorable characters who fight for or against narratives? I'm curious to see how this turns out. It's a unique take on building ties to a world, and I'm not yet convinced it can work. I'm pretty damn doomer when it comes to the modern player base. I think YouTube and TikTok have bricked people's commitment to communities because it's so easy to just forget and move on. But as someone who loves community, getting involved, I personally cannot wait to integrate myself and our little community here to be a part of whatever story unfolds on our server. So to end today's video, allow me to ask you a question, my dear viewer. A rather odd question, in fact. Do you think Twitch streamers and YouTubers will step into the role of memorable characters in Ashes of Creation? We thoroughly enjoy watching popular streaming personalities like Asmongold and Quinn69, YouTubers like Peon and Josh Drive Hayes, so I wonder how their stories will play out. Will the rivalries and epic sieges that occur draw in the same kind of attention like MMOs did back in the day? Will we become personally involved as we fight for creators we enjoy? I think Ashes of Creation is innovating in some really interesting ways, and I will say the community aspects of this game intrigue me, to say the least. But as usual, I am just one nerd desperate for a good MMO, and my opinions mean nothing without yours in the comments below. And hey, I just thought I'd shill my Discord towards the end here, as I'm thinking about setting up a weekly Discord discussion. And yes, I know you Spurgs didn't want me to make it public because you want your parasocial relationships to fester in an exclusive club or whatever, but let me worry about the moderation and spurgery. If your boy's gonna start streaming soon, might as well practice live banning people right now.
But Narc, Ashes of Creation and Rights MMO are just pointless vapor. Pantheon is the real passion project. Get a grip, kiddo.
And to that I say, listen, kid. Just because you got a shiny new voice doesn't mean you can start reusing old quotes from before. However, just this once, me and the patrons will let you off because you're high on copium.
I'm sure you'll want to try out your weapon first before we leave.
I was short on time, I dedicated myself to playing only the #1 WAD from